After entering a monster-filled castle, a monster took possession of her body, cursed her brother, and transformed into another person. On the day of the full moon, the curse grew stronger, and he was unable to control himself and hurt her. When they returned to the castle and Mary went to see her, Ray left in sorrow and told her that she would be in her room. And here Mary said to Cloudon, "I'll be inside too, my lord." And she went to Ray and said, "Lady Ray, I'll help you get dressed." And here, when Ray took off her clothes, Mary was shocked by the injuries on her body. She said to herself, "The Lord has gone mad because of the curse. Perhaps it's for the best that he stopped here." Helping her, she thought to herself, "At least she's walking on her own 2 feet." Suddenly, Ray said to her, "Mary, why am I always the one who has to be kept in the dark?" "Mary, I'm sorry," she said, shouting at her. "Why won't anyone tell me anything?" Mary was shocked. "What are you—" Ray cut her off and yelled at her, "You fainted last time because of Cloudon, didn't you?" At the moment, Mary thought she had discovered their secret. She thought to herself, "I knew she would find out someday. Even though she might be inexperienced and naive, she would be a fool not to realize that there is something strange about this castle." Smiling nervously, she said to Lady Ray, all the while thinking to herself, "But we can't be the ones to take the blow." Then she said, "I'm afraid there's a big misunderstanding. I fainted because of my illness. It has nothing to do with Lord Cloudon." Ray shouted at her in anger and said, "I thought you were different, Mary, but you also want me to close my eyes and ears even if something strange happens. Do you expect me to laugh it off as if nothing happened?" She fell silent for a moment and then said, "I'd like to be alone. Please leave." And so she did, and she left. And here she found Cloudon facing her, and she said, "Lord Cloudon." He looked at her, and then she said, "I think Lady Ray is upset. What if you tried to calm her down a bit?" When Cloudon didn't respond, she smiled and said, "Lord Cloudon, did Lady Ray find out everything? This didn't happen, did it? Everything will be fine. You know how kind and innocent she is. She'll understand as long as you explain everything to her." Cloudon, "What do you want me to tell her? That I'm an animal going into heat because of a cursed curse?" Mary, "That's not what I meant." Cloudon, "And that she should forgive me because I'm a centuries-old monster? Exactly how do you want me to explain? What do you think will give her peace of mind?" And he began to torment her as she suffered in pain. And here he said to her, "It's better this way." And here she looked at him in surprise. Cloudon, "It's much better this way." She was shocked when he said to her, "Let her go." And here she said to him, "What do you mean? I can't understand what you just said." "You want her to stay with you, Lord Cloudon." And here he smiled and said to her, "You have a cunning side, Mary. Well, I'm sure life has gotten easier for you lately. You've been sleeping well. I even heard you humming yesterday, and I think you found life somewhat tolerable after making Ray the docile lamb. All you care about is your own well-being, not Ray's." He then laughed and said to her, "It will do her no good to be involved with monsters like us. It's pointless." And here Mary put her face down and thought to herself, "I thought this was just a bump in the road. After all, they were madly in love. It was just a silly lover's quarrel, and they were just confused." And here at dinner time, Ray suddenly got up. Mary, "Lady Ray, won't you finish your dinner?" And here Ray said to her, "Mary, I would like to have dinner in my room from tomorrow on. I want to be alone." And here Mary looked at Cloudon in shock, but Cloudon just kept drinking his wine without paying attention to what Ray was saying. This made Mary feel nervous, and she said to herself, "I've never seen Lady Ray so angry before. I was worried about her intense reaction, but I knew how much they desired each other. And I thought all they needed was a little time, but Lady Ray doesn't even want to be in the same room with Lord Cloudon anymore, and Lord Cloudon is making no effort to fix this problem." And here she said to the servant, "This can't happen." And the servant, "Are you okay?" And Mary, in shock, said to him, "It seems Lady Ray has made up her mind, hasn't she? She'll suppress her feelings for Lord Cloudon. Lord Cloudon won't do anything, But when Lady Ray finally leaves him, I'll kill us both. And the servant, Whoa, Mary, this can't happen. I won't let this happen. And the servant put his hand on his head and said, Do you have a plan? And Mary hadn't thought about that and said, A plan? Then she said to him, A plan? Yes. I have to do something about this. And she went to the kitchen. And while she was preparing the soup, she remembered her past before she turned into a monster when Cloudon said to her, So you're the mother of 2 sons? Mary. Yes, Cloudon. My beginnings look ugly these days. Send me one of them when they all recover. And here she said, When my family died from a deadly plague, I came to this castle in a desperate attempt to cling to the last straw, and the mysterious lord of the castle showed me kindness that would save my family. And the medicine he gave me was indeed a miracle, and my son, who couldn't get out of bed no matter how hard I tried, was healed within days, and my heart was full of gratitude to the lord of the castle. But at that moment, I remembered Cloudon's words to her. My beginnings look ugly these days. Send me one of them when they all recover. And here she said to herself, when he grows up. And indeed, her son grew up and got married. And she continues and says, It's only natural for people to be deceitful. So I broke my promise to the lord of the castle. And here she said to herself, If he lives in a big castle like this, he should be able to find people to work for him at any time. He was kind enough to give me a cure to save my family, so everything should be fine. But the truth is that she had turned into a monster. And here she said, I shouldn't have done that. Oh my God, forgive me. And here she went back to Cloudon again and started knocking on his door, saying, Please help me. And when she went in to him, he said to her, I see you've been cursed. I'm afraid I can't help you. Maybe you should have kept your promise to us. And here she collapsed in tears from the shock of what he said. And from then on, she remained in the castle and never left it. And out of her deep regret, she said, I would never have taken the medicine if I had known this would happen. And here the servant came to her with the soup, saying, How long do you plan to stay like this? And here Mary looked at the food and started talking, saying, My mental health has improved over time. Or maybe I'm just starting to feel numb. And here we return to the present, and she is still talking to herself. I said to myself, I will atone for breaking my promise, and my family will become closer to God because of my sacrifice. Then she poured the drink she had made and went to Lord Cloudon with it and knocked on his door, saying, Lord Cloudon, I brought some tea for Lady Ray because she has a cold, but she won't open the door for me. And here she remembered Cloudon's words when he said to her, All you care about is your own well-being, not Ray's. I think you've found life bearable enough after making Ray the docile lamb. And here she smiled and said, What next? Lord Cloudon is the one who gave up on breaking the curse, but Lady Ray was the driving force that changed that, and he expects me to just give it up? It seems like Lady Ray has a high fever and called me cunning. He blurred the lines between good and evil for me long ago. I doubt Lord Cloudon will give up on Lady Ray. And here she said to him, But I think she'll open the door for you. And she left him the drink and went away, saying to herself, Lord Cloudon, we are all lonely souls gathered inside this cursed castle. I hope they will reconcile soon. We need Lady Ray in this castle. Then we monsters can finally know what it feels like to be human. And here Cloudon went to her with the drink, looked at her, and found her talking because of the fever. She was saying, No, I'm sorry, don't leave me. And she was crying in her sleep, saying his name, Cloudon. And here Cloudon sat beside her and wiped her tears, saying, Ray. And suddenly Ray woke up, thinking to herself, What is that smell? Did Lady Mary come? And here she found Cloudon. And when she called his name, he turned to her and placed his hands on her head, while Ray said to him, Why are you here? And Cloudon said, I don't think you have a fever. And he gave her the tea, saying, Drink this. And when she did, she said to herself, It's bitter. He must have thought I was sick. And here she said to him, Cloudon, I think my stomach hurts. And Cloudon said, Your stomach? Anywhere else? And Ray said, My shoulders and back hurt. My legs hurt too, and my hands. And here Cloudon was looking at her in amazement. And Ray, feeling embarrassed, said, And I think my stomach is upset because of... And suddenly Cloudon kissed her. And here Ray said to herself, This is the void in my heart that finally feels full. And the first person who saw me for who I really am, I don't care if he's a monster. And here she put him on the bed and held his face, continuing to say to herself, If he's a kind and gentle monster like him. And she looked at him crying and said to herself, I don't mind being eaten. And here he did it with Ray. And suddenly his godfather appeared, smiling and saying, Well, I knew you'd find her. It took you a long time, Cloudon. There's nothing I want more right now. You don't regret your decision now, do you? And Cloudon, in astonishment, said to himself, Regret. And here he looked at Ray, saying to himself, I could feel it. And I knew that the walls I've built around myself for decades were slowly crumbling. At first, it was just a new game to amuse me. And here he remembered what she told him. You already know this. You already know that I've fallen in love with you. And here he placed his hands on her face, saying, I almost feel bad for imprisoning you. You've become a helpless fool. And here he hugged her. The next morning, Mary brought Ray food, who said to her, Thank you, Lady Mary. I'm sorry I yelled at you yesterday over something trivial like that. I appreciate everything you do for me, Lady Mary. Mary smiled and said, Don't mention it. I was wrong too. And here Ray ate the bread with joy, saying, This is delicious. And suddenly Mary said to her, Were you able to talk to him? Didn't the Lord visit your room last night? There is nothing that cannot be solved by conversation. And here Ray looked at the bread sadly, saying to her, No, I didn't do that. I should talk to him, shouldn't I? And here Mary said to her, Oh, so you haven't had a chance to talk to him yet? And Ray smiled and said to her, Because I'm a coward, Mary. And here Mary said to her, Lady Ray, I can't answer any of the questions you have about this castle. And Ray listened to her as Mary continued and said, Only the Lord knows the answers to those questions. And Ray took a deep breath and said to her, I understand.